Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Advanced Azure OpenAI. This is the session that we're going to talk to you and show you the latest features in Azure OpenAI. And in fact, just to build a little bit of hype, we're working on something brand new, something you've never heard about before, something that literally Nick is working on the demo for. He's baking it in the oven right now. And so that's going to be at the end of the session. You're not going to want to miss this. And if there's an empty seat next to you, you're going to want to tell your friends, hey, show up to the session, because we're going to share something that the world has never seen before. With that, let me start with this video.
AI is transforming the way we live, work, and learn. Our customers around the world have harnessed the power of Azure OpenAI Service to innovate, transform, and achieve remarkable outcomes. Azure OpenAI Service fosters rapid innovation through same-day access to identical features and the latest models from OpenAI.
We are very excited about this new class of models. The ability to scale up performance through test time compute is quite impressive.
We developed the Copilot in less than 12 weeks with zero downtime. It cuts time to insight by 90%.
With the features and flexibility of the Azure OpenAI service, we're confident that the NBA Insights feature will continue to evolve.
Azure is a leading platform of choice for developers who seek to build innovative AI solutions for their applications.
Working with the Azure platform is very convenient. We can find the models, we can find the documentation, we can have the content filtering tool.
It felt like a stable, reliable partner.
Azure is the turbocharger for delivering the right data to the right person on a large scale.
Azure OpenAI Service automatically encrypts and protects your data, helping meet your organizational security and compliance commitments.
With customer interactions, our artificial intelligence system had to be responsible and accurate.
We chose Azure OpenAI Service because of its customization, safety, and dependability.
Microsoft has really shown a lot of leadership in establishing those principles of responsible AI.
Azure OpenAI Service offers multiple purchasing options, including standard, batch, and provision, providing flexibility to build and scale AI solutions. It also includes deployment options like data zones to help maintain data residency in the EU and US.
Azure OpenAI Service Batch API was the solution. Through this partnership, we're able to reduce our processing time by 75%.
We have access to richer data at much faster speeds, positively impacting the lives of cancer patients.
Azure OpenAI Service helps our customers organize, interpret, and act on contracts in real time.
Designed and pressure tested to meet all customer requirements, Azure OpenAI Service offers 99.9% reliability and 99% latency SLA, as well as 28 regions for data residency.
Azure OpenAI Service allow us to build with much more securities and service level guarantees in place.
Azure OpenAI and Azure AI Search give us an edge in understanding and using natural language.
We are solving some of the most complex problems in the industries.
We're innovating at a scale, at a pace like never before.
We're not just keeping up with change in our industry, we are leading it.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome demo. So I'm Steve Sweetman. I have the privilege of leading this product area, and I'm going to take just a couple minutes to give you some context about the Azure OpenAI Service. And then I'm going to hand over and get off the stage here, where we're going to have both KG and Nick here show you tons and tons of demos, actually show you how to use the latest and greatest, how to get the best out of it. And we've got an amazing customer story here as well to demonstrate how these breakthroughs are changing real industries. So you would have heard Satya this morning talk a lot about Foundry. Foundry is our platform that we're enabling developers like you all over the world to build agents on a foundation of models. And Azure OpenAI Service is the premier service that serves those models within Foundry. Now, one of the big things that we announced today is that alongside the Azure OpenAI models, you can now access the best models from xAI, from DeepSeek, from Meta, and from Mistral, and from BFL, using the same functional capabilities in terms of the offerings and the throughput that you get with Azure OpenAI as well. So fundamentally, we're offering you more choice than ever before in terms of being able to leverage the best models that are in the industry to meet your requirements. Beyond model choice, though, we recognize you have a choice. You have a choice over which platform you're going to build your applications on. And we sincerely hope you're choosing Azure OpenAI. And here's the 8 reasons why. First and foremost, we're committed to offering you access to the most innovative models available in the industry. As Satya said, we shipped 15 models already this year on the same day as OpenAI so that you can access those models, build on them, and innovate on them at the same time. Second, if your data is already on Azure, you can connect directly to that data. You don't have to copy, paste, move your data in order to use these models. You can simply plug it directly in, bring your own data, bring your own storage, keep it secure and compliant on the Azure cloud. Third, we have more built-in content safety than any other provider. Yes, we have all the native safety capabilities of the models, but we also enable for free content filtering and abuse monitoring that keeps your applications safe. And on top of that, we're continuing to innovate with new advances like grounding detection, cross-prompt injection attack detection, and now the latest AI red teaming agent that will actually go and stress test your system for potential issues and mitigate them. We have a whole session actually on Wednesday all about the flexible offerings and how to get the most value out of our standard, our provisioned, our batch service, our global services, our regional services, our data zone services. And why would I pick one versus the other? So I highly encourage you, if you're trying to think about how do I build my application and get the most value out of it, go to that session on Wednesday. I think it's BRK 178. Check it out. Number 5, enterprise promises. We hear from a lot of customers, particularly startups and ISVs, that they're choosing Azure because that brand means something in the enterprise space, right? Customers trust our Azure platform because we keep your data secure. We never look at your data. We maintain its privacy. We ensure that all of the enterprise guarantees in terms of reliability and safety are built in. In fact, our internal team goal, we say all the time, is to be the most reliable platform in the industry, and we believe we're up there. We believe that we actually have the most stable platform in this space despite the velocity of innovation that's happening. I talked about data privacy and security. I don't have to mention it again, but I will. We never train on your data. That is not true of all providers. You can ensure that your data is always your data. We're not offering a consumer service where we train on your data and an enterprise service where we don't. We just have one service, and that service maintains security of your data. It's always secure. We're aiming to always integrate with more developer tools and services, plugging in to extending the ecosystem with things like MCP and A2A that we announced, and then model selection that we announced as well. So, like I said, I'm just really quickly going to be talking to you about our service and why you would pick us. And these are the main reasons why. These are the fundamental key points for you to take away. We offer residency in more regions of the world than anyone else. We have higher performance and availability than anyone else in the industry, and we offer you access to the latest innovations. So talking about the latest innovations, I actually want to invite my friend KG. He's the wizard of OpenAI here within the Azure OpenAI team. Come on up, KG.
Thank you.
And rather than me simply telling you about these models, I'm going to hand over this remote to KG, who's going to both give you an introduction to the latest capabilities from OpenAI and show them to you as well. Over to you, KG.
Thanks, Steve. So as Steve said, we have the best complement of models from OpenAI on Azure. These are amazing models that we're going to show you how they work over time here. And Nick, in a little bit, will come up and show some demos. So first, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the reasoning models. So O3 and O4 Mini, these are the latest, best reasoning models that we offer. Who knows what reasoning models are? Few people, most people. So we'll do a quick recap. So the original models on OpenAI were the GPT models. You can think of these models as autocomplete on steroids. So you put in your prompt, and it spits the output one token by token. So they're just auto-completing your output. Now, they're amazing auto-completers. GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, they all started just by taking a prompt and putting out an output. And the intelligence in these models comes from what we call pre-training. So that's taking thousands of GPUs on running thousands of hours on trillions of tokens, and that gets put into a model that has that capability to complete your output. So those are the GPT models, and those come from that training comes from the pre-training compute. Now, reasoning models build on top of that. So with the reasoning models, what they do is you still take a pre-trained model, you put in your prompt, it spits out tokens one by one. But instead of you seeing that output right away, the model puts it into like a scratch pad where it's now able to, before showing it to you, it's able to think through, hey, this is what the user asked me to do. I'm going to explore some different options on how to solve this problem. It can actually go and backtrack and try to correct itself. And only when it's decided that it's got a really great answer, then it gives you that output. So that's called test time compute. And that scratch pad is often called chain of thought. You might have heard of that before. Now, what does that get you? What does that scratch pad and test time compute get you? It gets you the most capable models in the industry. So before, about a few months ago, the last generation of models were starting to saturate all the benchmarks. Saturate meaning they were just topping. They were getting to like 95 out of 100, 99 out of 100. So we started to run out of benchmarks. So people created a benchmark, number of benchmarks. One's called Humanity's Last Exam. It was an exam that was designed to make it really, really difficult for AI models to solve. And when that benchmark first came out, the best model scored like 1 or 2 points. Now, O3 gets 20 out of 100. It's the top model on this benchmark. And O3 is still the top in a bunch of variety of other benchmarks. So these are really, really great models at hard problems, thinking through math, coding, science. But that's not all. Benchmarks aren't what you all care about. You care about coding. You care about applying it to real-world problems. And to tell you how one customer is using the O3 models in practice, I want to welcome Shinya Yamamoto from Digital Intelligent Pharma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shinya.
Thank you very much, Keiji, for your kind introduction. So I'm honored to be here. I just came from Tokyo, Japan. I landed just yesterday. Still jet lag, but our company is a Deep Intelligent Pharma. Originally started from Beijing, but our headquarters is now located in Singapore. And we have a China mainland office and also Japan office. I am a general manager located in Tokyo and Osaka. Then today, I'm gonna introduce our real cases with OpenAI O3 and O1 from a hospital operation or pharmaceutical industry. I am actually professor at the 3 medical schools in Japan. So today's 2 cases are from Osaka University Hospital and also Kobe Graduate School of Medicine. So could you, maybe I can do it. So Deep Intelligent Pharma is an outcome-driven AI technology startup company for science, life science R&D, especially for the biopharmaceutical industry. So we founded in 2017, September 2017. Then we have been a lot of work and contributing to the industry. So as you can see, we have more than 1,000 global pharma clients. And then we did 20,000 drug submission projects, and then 5 billion plus words processes. So huge number of documentation we have been handling. And then some of you may know our industry has been spending a lot of huge cost for the new drug development. So for example, our R&D timeline is 10 to 15 years. So long to create one product. And then, but the success rate is really, really small. 1 in 5,000 compounds successful. So very low rate. But the cost is crazy. 1 to 2 billion per successful drug. And then high failure rate, like 90%. So as you can see, we have been really, struggling to develop a new drug or a new medical device so far today, because most of our operation has been a labor intensive model with subject matter experts. So we have been currently trying to transform such operation with OpenAI O3 or O1 model, so reasoning model. And then as you can see, this number, 75, 90, 75%, 50 to 90%, we can shorten the timeline. We can eliminate the cost drastically. Then why we use a reasoning model, as Keiji mentioned about the a reasoning model. This is totally beyond of the text generation. And then I will show you later our very complicated, complex document for the regulatory submission. But this is totally scientific document, not just a text or writing. This is kind of like an academic paper with a figure, table, listing, and then we need a calculation, very complex calculation too. So we have been really waiting for the reasoning model actually today. Then I will show you today 2 case studies. One is from Kobe University, which is National University Medical School in Japan. And then another one is from Osaka University Hospital. So both cases originally from a startup company, biopharmaceutical and AI-related startup companies. We have been supporting those startup companies for regulatory submission work. So for example, case 1, we did outright with O1 reasoning model last December, within only 1 week, without a human labor-intensive model. And then after New Year holiday, the hospital people at Kobe University reviewed our documentation. But at that time, they thought this will be taking longer time to review, to revise, edit for the consultation meeting with PMDA, which is Japan FDA, early February. But 3 days later, they sent an email to me, Shinya. They were so shocked. They didn't need any edit or revise at all. Just they can follow the result from O1 reasoning model. This is amazing. This was impossible, for example, with GPT-4o, GPT-4 Turbo, GPT-4, GPT 3.5, of course. Totally, we have been currently totally different new era after OpenAI O1 had been launched last September. Of course, O3 is much more smarter than O1. So this is a case, maybe first case in the world. Gen AI created a clinical trial protocol from the scratch on behalf of a human expert without any edit or any devices. This is the first case. We are currently writing an academic paper on this research, but I really wanted to share with you our cases from Japan. And another case study too is from Osaka University Hospital. This is a similar case, but not protocol auto-writing. This is a strategy creation for the consultation meeting with Japan FDA, PMDA. Actually, human expert, including a professor, researcher, medical doctor, had been struggling to design the endpoint of this clinical trial. Endpoint means the direction, goal of the study. Which data or should be, endpoint? They were struggling because their product is a really, really new product. So nobody knows about the endpoint. Then, only less than 1 week, all three reasoning models had been designed on behalf of human expert. Then they provided, all three provided to us option 1, option 2, option 3 as the 3 scenarios. And then we can select which is the better for our study or maybe future goal. Yeah. So this is also amazing. All three has been now more than human expert. PhD degree, medical doctor, professor, researcher, whatever.
So yeah, maybe, I know you have some demos to show us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is our example of regulatory documents. So such very complex document is required to be submitted to the health authority for drug or medical device approval. So as you can see, this is not just writing text. It's a kind of like academic paper with a table, figure, calculation, statistical data, blah, blah, blah. But 0301 now enable to write automatically without any edit or devices. And then this is our example of a platform with OpenAI O3 reasoning model. This is for case study 2, but a multi-agent platform. So we developed the multi-AI agent for those auto-writing process. So we are now uploading source data to this platform, and then each AI agent will be working for each tasks automatically. Then some of AI agent is writing or pass or double checking, blah blah blah. Then finally creating a final document to the health authority. So this is a current reality of the for this industry. And then our goal with Microsoft as our strategic partner is to transform biopharmaceutical industry toward to the next era, new era. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shinya.
Thank you.
Yeah. So using Azure OpenAI O3, you're basically able to help the pharmaceutical industry, which is used to years, months of document prep time, and shrink that into like a day or a week or something.
Yes, true. So of course, for each task takes a lot of time. For example, 1 week, 1 month, half year, or more than 1 year. For example, for this protocol auto-writing work, more than 3 months is required with a human being. But we did less than 1 week.
Yeah.
AG. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing result.
All right, thank you. We'd love to continue to partner with you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Shinya. All right. That's amazing. We love hearing stories like this of customers taking advantage of the latest models and making a difference, not just to their customers, but ultimately for something like life sciences R&D, impacting people's lives, right? So this is really exciting to see. Now, and you too can, of course, take advantage of these models. We've got, for the reasoning models, there are 2 models, O3, O4 Mini that we talked about. Let's just talk a little bit about what the differences are. O3 is the one that Shinya's team used. It's the best planner. It's the best model when you want to take a hard problem and have a model really think through it hard with ambiguous, unstructured data, just like you saw in all those pharmaceutical documents. So it's the best, and it's also the best at coding and deep agentic workflows. O4 Mini, on the other hand, is a cheaper, faster reasoning model. It's really good at coding and math use cases. In fact, it's actually better at math in the AIME 2024 benchmark than O3. So it is a really, really capable model. And if you've looked at some of the coding applications that we're launching with our partners, O4 Mini is used for that. So it's really good for high volume reasoning tasks. And it's actually a state-of-the-art vision model for image understanding. Now, so those are, we talked about how these two models are state-of-the-art in terms of hard problems and coding and science, just like we saw. But the other thing about the latest models is that they add features that developers have been asking for and that developers love, like chain of thought summarization, where you can see the test time compute as it's running. And hopefully we're going to see that in maybe a couple of minutes.
But right now.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, friends. Hey, Nick. All right. How many of you tried DeepSeek R1? I find like a lot of organizations and even us as humans just like to see the thought process. And OpenAI has admitted that they got that wrong. And it's a pleasure to share with you the chain of thought summarization with O3 and O4 Mini are now available. I just have some simple questions here, but I'm going to ask tell me the curious case of neural text to generation. This is actually regarding large language models. And what you're going to see, by the way, I'm talking to O3 here. You see it goes through this chain of thought thinking process, and then it produces this answer. And maybe I didn't provide a good example because I don't have a chain of thought there. So let me try a different one. Explain how transformers work in the natural language processing. And then you see how I have this chain of thought that summarizes how it was thinking about it. The user's asking for a balanced explanation of how transformers work in natural language processing. I need to cover the architecture, so on and so forth. And then it goes on and continues with that response. That's critical, especially for those of you that work in regulated industries or enterprises that require that audit trail, so you know what AI is doing, when it's doing some sort of job. Excited to bring that to these new advanced reasoning models going forward. Good? Yeah, and so some of the other capabilities that we're bringing, they're coming soon, are reasoning tools. Now, many of you probably know about tool calling in models. This is different. This is the models, the reasoning models using tools within the chain of thought. Things like search, things like browsing documents, or things like Python coding, invoking Python to do some numerical computations or image processing. So this is one of the really amazing capabilities that the O3 and O4 Mini models have. And it's actually also the basis for example, computer use as well as deep research. So Nick, do you have some other reasoning demos? Do you have some things to talk about this thing that we're going to show first? Yeah. So deep research, for example, takes one of the reasoning models, and there are a number of different variations that you saw in this morning's keynote, also with Satya, with the researcher. So deep research is a way of using these reasoning models where you give it a problem that you want a report on, and then it goes out and searches either through your documents, through web, through using Bing search, for example. And then not only does it search, it also grabs the documents, browses through them, picks out what it thinks are the relevant parts. And then it goes into kind of an agentic loop of, based on the information that it's found, it continues to go further and think about, hey, now that I know about this topic, I'm going to go search more and grab some more documents. And I see you've got something going on. Yeah, I mean, look, these models seem to get lost after a while. I'm sure our friends at DIP has also felt the same. They maybe get disinterested in what they're researching, and they want to learn about cockroaches in the Amazon. And it's just a weird, odd behavior that that language models do. But it seems like OpenAI has cracked something here, that they keep this model on task. And so we're not going to sit here for 30 minutes while it does deep research, to be clear. But if it comes back with a result, maybe we'll be able to show it to you here at the end of the show. So I'm going to ask the question, let's compare the papers, rule-based rewards for language model safety and constitutional AI, harmlessness from AI feedback. I'm asking about these things. I want to find similarities and differences in these research papers. And it's going to use a variety of tools to go off and do that research, right? Might look at the math and the algorithms used for this particular work and compare the methodologies and how they perform, the similarities and differences, and then hopefully we'll have a strong research result at the end of the show.
Yeah. So Nick, is deep research something that we offer in the product?
Not yet.
Oh, really? So we're showing everybody here something that's not available yet?
Yeah, this is a sneak peek, wasn't it?
Oh, man. And as Steve said in the beginning of the show, we're going to have a little bit more to share about this with you at the end of the talk. So stay to the end. Now, let's see. So I know we've got some other capabilities of the reasoning models. For example, we've got the way that you can control how much time these models spend thinking.
Yeah, so one of the, I'll just actually show my screen so you can see this. I was actually setting up a completely different demo. So we were talking about test time compute. Models essentially learn in 3 parts of their life, and I'm anthropomorphizing the technology a little bit. They get trained, right? That's the pre-training. Then they get post-trained. They learn how to talk to us. And then it's test time compute, which is they go off and retrieve the things to learn in the moment until they provide the result. Reasoning effort gives you a chance to control the depth at which the model spends time learning before it produces the answer. And most organizations find success changing this reasoning effort based upon the complexity of the problem. So you'd think about a self-qualifier here of what's the cost of getting the answer fast versus getting the answer of the highest quality. We actually use so much time in like instant gratification and getting text back instantly as possible. You probably just don't want a numbered bulleted list that we get from a lot of ChatGPT or Gemini or some base subscription. You want some full, deep analysis. Your reasoning effort is going to do that for you. And I'll provide a demo here a little bit later of what that might look like if we have time.
Yeah, and so if you think about a domain like Shinya was showing, that's when you want to use reasoning effort at a high reasoning effort, because you want the most accurate, deeply thought answers that you want out of these models. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to go on. We can come back and just talk a little bit about some best practices on how to use reasoning models and recap a little bit what we showed earlier. So first of all, these models work a little bit differently, especially if you're used to the GPT models from before. These models are actually, you can just pretty much tell it what you want, focus on what you want rather than how. Like instead of going into like minute detail of, oh, I want this code, a function named this, and I want to do that, you basically just focus on the goal. Like you can see on the right-hand side here, here's a developer message telling the model, hey, I want you to approach this problem using a workflow starting from high-level problem solving, thinking about the different options, asking clarification questions if you want, and then working through, and then dividing the problem and solving them chunk by chunk. So that's, you still, the explicit guidelines like that help the models, but you don't need to be like really prescriptive and micromanaging. Think of it really like, these models are much more capable of operating semi-independently from you. You provide a goal, and it's actually trained. That whole test time training compute training that the model undergoes, it's designed to help the model achieve goals semi-independently. So that's what you want. That's what you want to take advantage of. And kind of in a similar vein, these reasoning models, you no longer have to like do some of the older tricks like few shot examples. Maybe depending on some use cases, you need to show some examples first. But you can go zero shot, meaning you just ask it what you want and it'll output it. You also don't need to tell it like, hey, think step by step, because again, that's built into the model. The model is built to do, to think step by step using the chain of thought. And then we talked about the reasoning effort. You can control the cost and the latency, just like Nick was saying. And then you can do reasoning summarization. All right. So that's the reasoning models, and we love them. But we still have the GPT models, the super great autocomplete models. And GPT 4.1, GPT 4.1 Mini, GPT 4.1 Nano are the latest, greatest versions of these models. And these models were created. These are the best GPT models ever. They were created to be a joy to use for developers. And our developers, customers wholeheartedly agree. They love this model. We've had the fastest adoption ever of any model on Azure with these models. So really happy to see how well they're working for our customers. They're really easy to adapt, especially if you come from something like GPT 4.0. We see some customers basically just go from 4.0 to 4.1 in one day. They just take their old workflow and move it to 4.1. They're off and running, and they love this model. So they're great workhorse models to replace GPT 4.0, GPT 4.0, and GPT 4.0 Mini. They are also great worker or coder models or executor models to complement a planning model like O3. So in other words, this is a case where you can use O3 to say, hey, I want you to create a you want O3 in a multi-agent system where O3 is the planner and it plots out the steps that need to be taken, but you farm out the actual work like coding to a model like GPT 4.1 because they're really great and they're faster. And another really amazing thing that I'm hoping Nick will show in a bit, is this larger context, the larger input that you can provide to these models of 1 million tokens, which is 8 times the size of the previous model. So you can load whole repos, hours of audio transcripts, documents like Shinya was showing for pharmaceutical, which of course takes like tens, hundreds of files, and it can process them. So we love all the capabilities, and we know you will as well. So compared to the O series, the reasoning models, again, these are faster, lower cost models. It turns out GPT 4.1, GPT 4.1 Mini are in fact competitive with some of the older reasoning models. Like they're better than the first generation of reasoning models. So our advice really is start with 4.1 or 4.1 Mini. And if for some reason they're just not getting you what you need, then you can move up to 04 Mini or 04 or 03. Compared to the previous generation models, 4.0 and 4.0 Mini, they are better across the board at coding, at agentic use cases, instruction following, meaning it does what you tell it to do, it does what you ask it to do, and vision. They're better cost performance. In fact, in the case of 4.1 Mini, what we're finding is that some customers are replacing 4.0 model with 4.1 Mini with just as good capability and much lower cost and latency. So this is a benchmark kind of scaling law chart here of performance, kind of comparing performance to cost for a benchmark called HealthBench that was recently published by OpenAI. You can see on the top quadrant there, basically it's going kind of going from lower capability to high capability and lower cost to higher cost. So on the bottom left, you have GPT 4.1 Nano, which is the fastest, least expensive model. GPT 4.1 Mini is a little bit more capable and a little more expensive. GPT 4.1 goes up. And you can see it just goes straight up through to 04 Mini and 03. So you get to choose where you want to be on that spectrum in terms of the capability that you want and then the cost and the latency that you want. Now, the other thing that you might notice here is that GPT 4.1 in the middle, in terms of the capability, the score, it's higher than O1 and O3 Mini, which are the previous generation reasoning models that were released only like 4 months before these models. So that just speaks to how quickly things are moving, how the AI is getting better, and how you can count on Azure to keep you offering these models that are going to get better and better and better over time. So, Nick, I see you've been working away.
Let's see what we got.
What you got? Yeah, what do you got?
First of all, I needed more quota, so I just requested that from you. If you get that to me
Hey,
soon,
you know, I'm the quota guy, so.
So what the heck have I been doing over here? So let me share what I've got. Anybody attend the Agent Factory session earlier in the morning? Yeah, thanks for being there. It was a labor of love for the last 2 weeks of days, nights, and weekends working on those demos. I listened to a lot of Hansel Minutes, and I've actually collected like over 100 transcripts, like a lot of transcripts. And this is going to be a zero-shot demo because I've not even tested it to see that it's going to work.
Let's do it.
So bear with me. I might have to debug live on stage if this doesn't work. Oh, perhaps I forgot a comma. If it's ever for the forsaken comma, I should probably do a.
You just always had them.
I should probably do a pip install for OpenAI. That's how like down to the wire this was coming, guys.
That's Microsoft Build. You build.
Look at that. We're just installing libraries right here live on the demo. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, I have to import OS too, don't I? Yeah, just be my eyes for me, will you? Yeah, I got my Vim working. So interesting thing about VS Code, you can actually tell that you're in a virtual environment even though it doesn't show it anymore in the CLI. It always messes with me, but if you do, .vim scripts activate, it gives you your parentheses.
Can everybody see this?
But it will work in your virtual environment whether or not you did that, which is pretty interesting. All right, so I put a bunch of these transcripts in here. It was like 989,000 tokens. And I just upped my quota in the portal to 1 million. And I asked, what does invisibility cloak do? I don't know. It's like a script that Scott ran in 2006. Nobody has any idea what it does. But we've got a max tokens expected. Oh, I gave it a string. I should have made it an integer. Jesus. Who hired this guy? Let's try that again. Moment of truth. It's too large. It only supports 32.76. Do I need a different API version?
Oh,
KG?
max tokens is the output. So, yeah.
Oh, that's the output, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't need that then.
No.
I don't even need to tell it that.
No, you don't
Just
need to tell it.
scrap it.
Yeah, there you go.
What am I doing?
Let's do it.
It's a lot of sleepless nights. One more time. Now it's chunking through all those. It looks like it's working now, right? It's chunking through all those 100 transcripts, squished down into 989,000 tokens to hopefully give us a beautiful response of what this is. Now, I called it invisibility cloak, right? So let's just go in. Gino, what's this invisibility cloak all about? It's a user script that I wrote for GreaseMonkey. It's a Firefox extension, which can run any JavaScript on any given web page. This was back in 2006. Anybody, does that bring back memories for anyone? Oh, look at the
Before my
answer that we
time.
got here. What does it say? It says, invisibility cloak is a GreaseMonkey user script that allows you to block yourself from visiting certain distracting websites.
All right.
Thank you, GPT 4.1. Shoo! Back to you.
That was epic. Let's see. So,
another demo?
Yeah, another demo. Oh, okay. So that's GPT 4.1. We've got, again, there are 3 of these models, GPT 4.1, GPT 4.1 Mini, GPT 4.1 Nano. They've got amazing capabilities in coding, improved instruction following. We basically talked about the different kind of delineation here. They go from the capability, GPT, highest for GPT 4.1, down to GPT 4.1 Nano. These are proving extremely, extremely popular. Please go try them out. It's probably, if you're using GPT 4.0, for example, you're probably gonna have a better time with these models. Your customers will probably thank you for using these models. Now, a couple of, basically, some of the highlights that we haven't covered for these latest models. They are better, they've been trained to be really good at coding and instruction following. One of the things, it is better at front-end coding with UI, for example. And another thing that they're really been trained to be better at is code editing. Now, if you've done vibe coding, like people have done vibe coding, so you have that experience of saying, hey, I want this website that does blah, and you get like 5 pages of JavaScript, right? And they work great a lot of the time, but as soon as you say like, hey, I want the color changed here or like the font changed, like it spits out another 5 pages, right? And then they're not actually usually always like kind of exactly the same. They're sometimes a little bit different. And if for example, you find a bug and you find a bug like Nick had, and you type in, to Copilot, hey, like, or the vibe coding platform, like, hey, please fix this bug for me. It again spits out like 5 pages, right? So these models are trained to not have to do that. You can ask it to just edit the code, modify as little code as possible. It knows a variety of diff formats. And so, it's better matched to kind of just working in your code base to update it to the exact way that you want it updated, as opposed to you having to like understand chunks and chunks and pages of code every time you ask it to do something. And they have better output formatting, better input formats, like it understands XML tags, which is really helpful, in having kind of structured documents. Yeah, so we're kind of getting close to the end here. Q&A. What do you got?
A few more demos?
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. All right. So there's this new model on the block that does some really cool image gen. And look, my 3-year-old daughter thinks all I do at work is I create images of dinosaurs. So I was just going to create one for you all that she likes quite a lot. A cartoon dinosaur. Make it baby Brachio. That's her favorite. That's totally her favorite. We're just going to have it generate this image here, right? One of the things that we've solved here with this image 1 model is that it can actually do text now. Reasonably well. It's quite a bit better than what we've seen from image predecessors.
Yeah.
And so I've been, woo!
That is a cute dinosaur.
And how many of you follow the OpenAI subreddit? Like every day. Have you seen this latest trend where you can take any image and make it an X-ray? That was just like this week, right? So I'm just going to take a picture that was just laying around. Oh, that was broken. Let's try that again.
That never happens.
Yeah, it's a really obscure image that nobody's ever seen before. And I'm going to say, make this image an X-ray. And what we should be able to see is it augment this particular meme, and it's going to take a bit, so we've got some jokes to tell.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, so.
While it's doing that.
Yeah. What happened to the research?
Oh, we'll come back to that.
Oh, okay.
I got another demo.
What's that?
Oh, that's just Gradio guessing. It has no clue. Yeah, no clue. Let me make sure I'm hearing audio here. Hey, can you hear me? Oh, let's turn up our audio and make sure our device is correct here. Yep. That's me. That's not that. Hey. All right.
Hey, hi.
Oh.
Hey, hello.
Hey. Oh. Hey. Hey, there you are.
Hello. How can I help you today?
You're on stage with me at Microsoft Build, and I need you to make this a really good demo.
That sounds exciting. Let's make this demo awesome together. What would you like to showcase?
Well, I'm going to go out after this episode with a ton of my friends, and I think we want to eat at a Japanese restaurant.
Fantastic. Are you looking for recommendations?
Wait a second. I need to know if I need to bring a jacket. I've got a couple of friends that want to know too.
Got it. Tell me where you're heading, and I can check the weather for you.
Seattle.
The current temperature in Seattle is about 13.7 degrees Celsius.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm an ignorant American. Can you convert that to Fahrenheit for me?
Is it all? 13.7 degrees Celsius is about 56.7
Oh,
degrees Fahrenheit.
that's okay. I run hot, so I think I'll be good. But just so you all know, because my wife never remembers if she needs a jacket for that kind of weather. Anyhow, like when we're at the Japanese restaurant, I want to impress my friends with the Japanese that I know, but I actually forgot the Japanese customs of what I say when I receive my food and when I'm finished. Can you remind me that?
Of course. When you receive your food, you can say itadakimasu.
Ah, itadakimasu. You actually jogged my memory. So when I'm finished eating, you say gochiso sama deshita. Is that right?
Wow.
Yes, that's right. When you're
Yeah.
finished eating, you say "Gonchiso sama deshita" to express gratitude for the meal.
Awesome.
Right?
Look, I meet so many people, I often forget names, and I'm going to be sitting next to Dave and Ben. Can you remember that for me?
Got it. I'll remember that you'll be sitting next to Dave and Ben.
Awesome. And then let's just wrap this demo up. Can you just sign off with some extreme, like absolutely dripping in sarcasm?
Oh, sure. Because signing off with extreme sarcasm is clearly the most professional and appropriate way to conclude an important demonstration. How could I not have thought of such a brilliant idea myself?
Hey!
There you go.
All right. Now, let's see if we got some research. Nope, still processing.
Still processing.
See you next year, folks. All right.
It's going really deep. All right. Okay. So I think it's time for Q&A if there are folks.
Well, wait. Whoa. What did we just see? We were just talking to the computer for a little bit. You wanna fill them in on the deets with what we got going?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do it. This, by the way, is a real-time audio console. We now just recently shipped WebRTC and WebSocket support for Azure OpenAI and our GPT-4o real-time audio model. And so you could see that I was calling a couple of tools here, right? So I was checking the weather, and you could see the interactive control sort of move from San Francisco to Seattle. Redmond was a little too close. You wouldn't have noticed the move, but I think that makes it more impactful. And then you could see my memory. You imagine that as just being anything, like any time that you just want to recap important parts of a conversation, not just when I invoke that it needs to. These were just described tools in natural language that this real-time audio model can call. We're sending audio as streaming chunks in real time. And we're doing voice activity detection on the server side. So while we have the stream open, I'm speaking, and it looks for the end of the utterance and then begins responding back in kind, right? That's really useful because it feels more human. And I don't know about you, but I've been dealing with this touchscreen keyboard for the last 20 years, and I still can't type. I'd rather talk to it rather than type it. And so these types of modalities are not only accessible, but they're just more convenient. Like, we all want to reach that idea where Captain Kirk is sitting at his computer at the USS Enterprise, and I don't have to use Alexa Speak. I just want to talk to the computer and be able to get the thing that I need to get done.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Nick. And we do have, yeah, that's what.
Computer.
So we have two things. Number one, if you do have questions, looks like we'll have about 5 minutes. There's a microphone in the middle of the room, so I will ask folks to start lining up. That means that everyone who's online can hear your questions as well as our answers. But at the beginning of this, I said we have something for everyone that's here in attendance. Now, throughout the demos, we've been talking about deep research, and you may be familiar with it because it's available in ChatGPT today. But the challenge there is that you cannot integrate that capability into your application because it's not available as an API. But today we're announcing that coming soon, and first to you, will be the Deep Research API powered by Bing Search. And to thank you for attending our session today, we're actually going to post a QR code here. Now, if you all get your phones out, it's going to take you to a form that will let you sign up. You will be the first in the world to be able to sign up for access to the Deep Research API. You will be first in line at the store virtually the moment that this thing ships in 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks, hopefully 2 weeks. So we just wanted to thank you for coming and being able to integrate that deep thinking combined with the search capabilities powered by Bing into your application.
Do you think it'll arrive before GTA 6?
I can't comment on that. So feel free to take a photo, and I think we do have a couple of moments for questions. So any questions in the room? And if there are no questions, then let me just ask about Image One for a second. So you did that cool X-ray demo, but again, I've seen that functionality in ChatGPT. What were you actually calling there, Nick?
What was I calling? So this is the GPT Image One model.
Fantastic. And this is an API as well, too. So if you were building a meme generator.
This is an API that's available for, but first of all, you have to request access, right? We've got this gated right now. It's available in West US 3 and UAE North currently. And you can actually use this image model as a tool. What you'll actually see in Jay's keynote session tomorrow morning is how they're using this as an RSVP agent to generate images that go along with an invitation.
Now, I'm going to throw something at you. We haven't tested this, but you said it's good at building images with text in it. So maybe I wanted to build an image of a stage at Microsoft Build with the text of Microsoft Build in it. And if you're doing that, the point is that actually I use this a lot for my PowerPoint's work, I'll be honest. Like if I want to build some sort of a diagram, a flow chart, or a picture of something for my build presentations, I can actually use Image One for that. Oh, yeah. Equally, I can incorporate this into my application for generating images on the fly. And so let's see how it does at building a stage for keynote presentation with the words Microsoft Build in the center of...
In the center.
In the center.
Good
Okay,
enough.
let's see how
Let's
it
make
does.
this widescreen.
Oh, okay.
Let's make it HD.
Oh, he wants to. He definitely wants to use the last minute and 23 seconds. Oh, he doesn't have access to HD. We haven't enabled that for his.
All right. Looks like we have one question.
While we're doing that, question.
Hi. So the question is this: you show a couple of models right now, right? They have different capabilities, different different ways to do things, reasoning and all that, right? From the Foundry itself, you have all of those. So when you bring up the APIs and stuff, as developers, we need to know which one to pick up, or
what a great question! Can I Sorry, I'm a little excited because actually on Wednesday, we're going to be announcing another new feature, which we kind of Satya talked about, called Model Router. So today, yes, you have to decide. You have to actually test based on your prompts which model is better quality. We've got toolkits for that. We've got a benchmark tool within the model catalog, and we've got evaluators that help you make that decision. But to make it even easier, we're shipping this week the Model Router. The Model Router will look at your prompt, and it's a pre-trained model that automatically routes between 4.1, 4.1 Mini, 4.1 Nano, and 04 Mini. Based on the complexity of the prompt and what you're trying to do, it will give you their response automatically. And so this takes a lot of the dev cycles out of the time. It just really reduces it dramatically. And so we're super excited to ship that. And if I could give you $20 right now, if I had it on me, I would give it to you, because that's a great plug for our session on Wednesday where you can learn more about it.
That's easy for us. Good to know. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And with that, I think we're at time. So if you have follow-up questions, come see us here.
Thanks, friends.
Thank you, KG. Thank you, Nick. Thank you to our customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shinya.
Hey.